Endorphins slammed through Sonia as she ran up Gamble Hill, a sublime ache in her calves and thighs, body sheathed in sweat, the deep, steady rhythm of her breathing accompanying the metronomic pace of her Asics striking the dirt road as she gained the top of the hill at the same speed she'd started with a quarter-mile back at the bottom. There was no better rush than being awash in her chemical high. Marijuana in high school had left her lobotomized, and her one-time dalliance with coke at Dartmouth had left her nerve endings feeling raked raw and dipped in kerosene. Not even sex with Claude got her blood surging like running did, not that they'd found the time of late. She swiped stinging sweat from her eyes with the hem of her running shirt, tipped on her toes to flex her calves, then jogged lightly in place, her mind clearing. Her house sat far below in the valley, a cottage that had been added onto 3 times since a Civil War veteran had built the original home in 1867. She could just make it out from here. It squatted in a small field that had once been an apple orchard, of which only a few fruitless trees remained. The golden autumn sunlight glanced off the slate shingle roof whose weight caused the roofline to sag like the spine of an old mare. She loved the old house, did not want to restore or remodel it. She loved it for what it was, old, and a long way from Chicago and her parents. It was home, where she would spend the rest of her life, where she would die. Knowing this filled her with the peace of mind that came with certainty. She touched her toes, cracked her back. The road ahead traversed Gamble Ridge for 2.8 miles, then took a steep descent into the river valley, where she'd take River Road north 4 miles back to home. She popped in her iPod's earbuds and cranked REM's Ebo the Letter, set it to loop, preferring its melancholic throb to music that assailed, like the System of a Down or AC/DC that inspired Claude. His clients would be aghast to know their pastoral paintings were created to such tasteless music. As Stipe's voice incanted, "Look up, what do you see? All of you and all of me." Sonia set out leisurely to get her blood flowing again, pacing herself. Up ahead, a woman with a lovely black mane of hair was at her mailbox. As Sonia approached, she saw that the woman was a man. His bare feet were grimed, his faded jeans torn, and his blousy tunic stained with what looked like strawberries, or blood. Back in the day, he'd probably followed the dead until Jerry had croaked, then toured with Fish, a UNH or UVM English major who'd retreated to where land was still cheap and he could be left alone with his LSD flashbacks. But Sonia thought he'd been a woman. Her radar was off, and it bothered her. She settled into a languid stride, working up to a refreshing 6-minute pace. A heart attack pace, Claude would say. They used to jog together before the kids. After jogging, they'd make love, shower together, then sit out on the back porch in the dark, drink a 6er of Long Trail as they listened to the tree frogs sing. When Sonia hadn't been able to jog the last few months of carrying George, Claude had given it up. After George had arrived, Sonia had grown depressed by her inactivity, felt like a dirty gym sock filled with custard. When she'd finally been cleared to jog and was able to squeeze in time for it, a trigger had been pulled, and she found she'd needed the rush to start her day right and to think straight. She'd morphed from jogging casually in whatever shorts and tee she threw on into a gearhead runner seeking the perfect $200 running shoe, synthetic sweat-wicking garb, and heart rate wristband, fanatical about improving time. She'd run every weekend 5K race within 100 miles, May through October. Then 5K had become 10K, then half marathons. Now, finally, the Burlington City Marathon. Her eating had become regimented. Food, which she'd always indulged in for the sheer pleasure of taste, from sushi or a bloody burger to a chocolate shake or a Velveeta and Wonder Bread grilled cheese, had been reduced to fuel, ingested solely for its grams of protein, fat, and complex carbs. She was unclear on